Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts, where we continue the training and figuring out how we can develop the attributes and skills that we find to be cool. Because oftentimes we see our instructors or we see other martial artists accomplished in their training, and they do some really amazing stuff. They just can't get past their guard. They're constantly being able to block or redirect, and I know for me in my training, there's been times where I'm wrapped up. I can't move my arms, or they have me held in a certain way, or they have me pinned a certain way, and I just like I have no out. I'm done. I don't know what to do. I'm dead. And we reset and we try again, right? I don't know. Has that happened to you? Has it ever happened to you in real life? Have you ever been in a real fight where you felt like so much had been done to you, or you're in such a compromised position that there's just no way for you to get out of it, and you just kind of resolve that you're done? Hopefully, that's not the case. Pretty sure that that's a very scary situation, and I hope nobody's been in that. But it does happen from time to time. So how do we develop the mentality that there is always an out? And is that a correct mentality? Is there always an out in anything that you do, especially martial arts? When you're moving, you do one thing and it gets blocked, you do another thing, you get trapped. Is there ways out of that, even though you feel like, okay, I'm being overwhelmed right now? How do you develop that mentality, first of all? And second of all, if you can develop that mentality, how do you then practice the skill sets to be able to do those things? Like, what do you have to do? In my opinion, definitely being of calm mind is one of the big ones. If your brain is constantly panicking, then it's a lot harder to actually see anything or any of the possibilities outside of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And how do we then develop that? Well, for me anyways, breathing is a big part of it. We've talked about the effects of the brain and the chemicals that happen in there, and how just taking a deep breath kind of makes a lot of that go away. It brings down the levels of those chemicals in your brain that are making you panic. So first step, can you put yourself in a position where you're freaked out and you have to calm down, you have to breathe? You can do that through training. Definitely, there are ways to go about it. No one way is better than the other, but to get that adrenaline spike, to get that fight or flight to kind of trigger. And it doesn't have to be a dangerous situation. It doesn't have to be something dramatic, just enough to get you to that point, and then being able to calm. And if you can repeat that process, it becomes a lot easier to remain calm in stressful situations. Time development, I'm sure you have your own ways of doing so, relaxing, mindfulness, whatever it may be, but being able to breathe keeps your brain a little bit more calm, a little bit more perceptive, and able to come up with different ideas on how to get out of situations. Panic is one of the big reasons why people kind of just freak out or freeze up or just give up in a situation, because it's a real thing. And regardless of how well trained we are, there's always a situation that's pretty much out of our comfort zone in any way, shape, or form. But if we can develop that more and more, train it just as much as we do the physical stuff, then we have a better chance of remaining calm in a situation where we really need to figure out a different strategy, something that we haven't thought of yet, something that's going to get us to safety a lot better than just panicking. But where does that start developing? Where do we start developing the physical aspects of it? Everyone has drills, everyone has techniques that they practice over and over again, where contact is necessary in order for them to continue. For people who do sticks, you often see people who are moving around using their empty hand. They're moving along with it, and it represents many things depending on the style that you do. For me, the way that I was taught is that this hand is the most dangerous hand because it is capable of doing whatever it needs to win. This This is intimidating, sure. This has a stake, but it's also limited because you're holding on to a tool, a weapon. So it's very difficult to really do anything other than what you've already learned to do with the tool. But the empty hand, that can punch, it can poke, it can just wiggle somebody's ear, whatever it needs to do to get this one to be more effective, or use this one as a distraction so then this one can poke an eye, grab hair, and then just beat the crap out of somebody. So you see it in sticks often where these are being moved. And for some other practitioners, every point of contact on my own body with my empty hand is me pulling out a knife. So again, other ideas of what this empty hand can do. But again, we're talking about the idea of getting stuck, getting caught up in a situation where you have to get out of it. There's an out. Somebody presses, somebody reacts a certain way. Your teacher has put you in a compromised position, and you feel stuck. You don't know what to do. The one simple idea that we started off with was, if your hands are tied up, your feet are free. Which means if you're standing up and somebody's got you and you can't move, well, you have kicks, you have knees, you can start utilizing those. But again, if you're not relaxed enough to think of those things, you're going to panic and you're probably not going to even consider that as an option. But it's also something you can start practicing in person with a partner. Rick, you got a moment?
I sure do.
You
I'm
go, young man.
standing in the wings waiting for you to say
He
Rick.
was, but don't worry about
Back up just a little.
Hey,
You're
just
my
fighting
camera.
stuff.
You're my
Okay.
camera space.
All right, so you've seen our drill before, the sombrata, to just back and forth. At the very beginning, we start using this to get the students to start using their live hand. Eventually, we start getting into the idea of like, okay, how do we stop their hand from moving? So this me jamming him in, right? And I'm about to attack him, which for those who are unprepared, that could be a finishing move. That could be the end of their fight. But for somebody who is prepared or has understood or practiced the idea, Rick has many options to go from here. I try to attack him. Oh, look, he can move out of the way. I can stop his. He's still got his. And then eventually we're playing this game. We're now learning how to counteract what we think is being immobilized. Yeah, got it. As you can see, at no point could I get Rick to really stop from moving. But the way that we started developing this is, one, we focus on the weapon hand. We know how to use our empty hand with and get contact with it. Oh, I can grab it from here. If I can touch it, I can grab it, I can lock it, and then I can do whatever I can. Why? Because this is a threat. But we started off with the idea that this is less of the threat than this. So how often in Filipino martial arts or any weapon system do we attack the empty hand? The hand that we consider most dangerous. So we use the same drill to then start using that same idea. Because if we're teaching the students to use their empty hands in this drill, well then at what point can we use that idea against the opponent itself? So now we know, okay, the person in front of me can use their empty hand. They know how to do it. Alright, so here. He goes for that contact becomes my trigger point, and at any given point through this thing, I can even just reach out for it, because now I don't even have to wait for that trigger. But how often do we find ourselves where we are stuck? He has contact. I went in too deep. He was ready for it. He gave me the pressure. He's pushing back. Now, I'm in a compromised position, but am I really? How easy would it be to just grab his hand and then take control of the situation? There are drills, definitely, that explore this idea, but they're often considered empty hand drills. They're often considered, because now we're equal terms, but it's just as easily used with the weapon, just as easily used with the same hand. very easily. Here I'm stuck. He's putting pressure on me. But what if I use my mechanics and I move out of the way? Now there's less contact. Now I can move forward. Oh, now we're really exploring the idea of how we can then use both our weapon and our empty hand to control the opponent. And at the same time, our training partner is learning how to get out of situations that he probably doesn't want to be in for the sake of the fight. Thank you very much, sir.
Bye. Come on, Luigi.
And what other drills could you use that in? What other exercises could you start using your empty hand to just explore? Find different ways to get out of situations. Not limit ourselves to just where we feel the pressure, or even our hands. Start using our feet, move around, move our mechanics as needed. We always have this tendency as people to fight pressure with pressure. And it's hard. And especially, I think, guys have this a bit harder. We want to fight that force with force. We want to go, as hard as we can, and then receive it and then give it back just as much. But do we really have to fight that hard? Do we really have to exert that much energy? Or can we explore first mentally and then physically how to utilize all our other body parts, our entirety of our body, to move around the situation, to move the situation out of the way, which is the person or a group of people. So we're not trying to fight it with force. We're trying to just move out of it and use our empty hand as it was intended to when we did learn, especially in Filipino martial arts. This is me pulling out knives and becoming something else. This is me grabbing somebody or pulling somebody out of the way to hit them, clear the way, moving on to the next thing. Because that's how we learn to use our hand. But should it be limited to just weapons? Should it be limited to just when we learn it in a drill? Or can we utilize that idea to then give us that flexibility so then we can be like our instructors and tie up our students or our opponents to such a degree that they no longer wish to fight? Again, just an idea. Hopefully that has triggered some ideas of your own. Maybe go back to some of the exercises that you haven't done in a while and explore them in a different light. Think of them with the left hand instead of the right, vice versa. Use your feet. Whatever the case may be, whatever ideas were implanted in your head today, let them grow and take them to whatever logical conclusion you feel is the best for you. I appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you very much for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. And until the next one, 3, 2, I can't count, 1, cut!